Hey Cougars, I'm Matthew Stell with @UH News. As most of you are already aware, the Republican presidential debates were this past Wednesday at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California. The GOP organized 2 rounds of debate, the first for the candidates with the lowest poll numbers, aka the happy hour, and the second for the leading candidates during prime time, which is what we will be discussing tonight. So joining us in the studio are Matt Wiltshire and David Koczynski from our very own Student Government Association here on campus to get their varying perspectives post-debate and on the candidates in general. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We gladly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us.
And also for you U of H students, just to let you know, these gentlemen are also members of the College Republicans organization on campus too. David is president of that organization, and Matt is head of public relations. So once again, we're grateful to have you here.
Of course.
Now, first off, to get to the man of the hour, Mr. Donald Trump. How'd he do, better or worse?
Asking how Donald Trump did in a debate is like asking how a monkey did in the debate. I mean, the guy is a baboon. He really is just there for entertainment. I hesitate to say this, but politics changed in 2008. Prior to that, you needed to be a politician. You needed to, say the right things. You needed to shake the right hands. Barack Obama changed that. You needed to be on the cover of People magazine. You needed to be on the cover of Us Weekly. Donald Trump, I really couldn't care how he does in the debates, and I honestly don't think that his fans care about how he does in the debates. They're looking for a fight. And any time that we talk about Donald Trump is time that we're taken away from the real issues. What are we going to do with Iran? What are we going to do about our economy? How are we going to deal with an immigration system that clearly doesn't work? Donald Trump is there for entertainment. I think that without him, the Republican field would probably be the single highest level of political discussion that we've had in this country in 2 decades.
Thank you for that answer. I totally agree with that as well. So the newest poll came out from CNN this past weekend that has Donald Trump in first place, Carly Fiorina in second place, Dr. Ben Carson in third place, Senator Marco Rubio in fourth place, and former Governor Bush in fifth place. What's your take on those polls?
Well, it's a direct reflection on the debates. When one candidate succeeds, like Carly Fiorina, she gets skyrocketed in the polls. And it is the single most affecting thing that a candidate can do, whether instead of doing a talk show and instead of doing an ad, being on a debate and being successful at the debate is what can either make you or break you. And it's what's causing some people to drop out, and it's what's causing some people to rise in the polls without doing a lot of campaigning.
I think that in addition to that, you look at people like Jeb Bush who have dropped from second to fifth. He hasn't been making a name for himself in the debates. He's kind of boring to watch. And the thing that we all need to keep in mind whenever we look at these polls, these are really early polls. There are even after today, there are 14 candidates in the Republican field, or 15 candidates. Donald Trump is leading in the polls only because of that. As soon as we whittle it down to 6, 8 candidates, we'll be looking at a much more competitive field.
Right. Now, another person that has been gaining some popularity this week because of the debates is Ms. Carly Fiorina. And a lot of sources said that she won. What do you think?
I would say that she won just because she was able to finally give Donald Trump a run for his money. She was able to counter every point that he made, and she was able to respond to the insult that he made of her, and made her seem like a viable candidate and somebody that could answer the questions and could debate Hillary Clinton when it's time to.
Now, one other candidate that has really been gunning for the top is Senator Marco Rubio. Mm-hmm. Why is that? And why are younger Americans grasping towards him nowadays?
Well, not only because he's young, but he has a message of a new American century, working towards the 21st century. He's somebody that people can relate to. He had hundreds and thousands of dollars of student debt, and that's something that a lot of us can relate to. He's a candidate that is looking towards the future instead of the past, and he's comparing himself to Hillary Clinton. And when you have that comparison of the past and the future, he can make the best argument than any other of the candidates.
A lot of people look at our generation and they say that we're politically apathetic, and I fundamentally disagree with that. We're an extremely politically active generation. The fact, though, is that we do so in a different way. 20 years ago, I don't think that you could have gone onto a college campus and said the names of some of the lesser-known Republican candidates and had the same type of reaction that people do today. Social media has changed that. The fact is, I go to my Facebook page and I see comments about Ted Cruz well, I mean, of course, this is Texas,
Right.
so of course I'm going to see things about Ted Cruz, but I see things about Marco Rubio. I see things about, not just Hillary Clinton, but Bernie Sanders. And the adulation that Bernie Sanders gets from college students is incredible.
Right. Now, one other candidate that we were unfortunate to hear about is Governor Scott Walker. As you know, as of today, he dropped out of the presidential race. So why the sudden fall of grace?
Well, I think the reason that he mainly dropped in the polls is because he wasn't exciting. He wasn't, even though he was younger, he didn't excite the next generation. And his biggest problem is that he was a governor. He was talking more like a politician 8 years ago, talking about his records and stuff. But what people want right now is an outsider. People want the vision for the future. And he just gave the most typical answers. And I think that's the biggest reason that he dropped, is that people were just turned off. They would just turn off the TV. It's not somebody that you would want to listen to. It's not somebody that's exciting.
People want a celebrity. And right now, in some sense, Carly is the person that's really jumping ahead and giving that celebrity status. It's odd because we've had many women run for president before, but she's not running her campaign like all the women that have come before her who were running as women running for president.
Right.
She's running for president who happens to be a woman. And that is, I think, extremely appealing to young people who sort of want to get past this identity politics and get into real issues.
Right. Now, speaking of real issues, there's one issue that one other candidate has ran into. Dr. Ben Carson. As you know, this past Sunday in an interview with Meet the Press, Carson said he would not advocate for putting a Muslim in charge of our nation. And that's a pretty strong sentiment, and he refuses to apologize for that. And even the Muslim American Association has called for him to drop out of the race. Why is it that many candidates are making such controversial statements nowadays?
Well, I think that in part with regard to why so many politicians are making controversial statements about Muslims in particular is that they're being ambushed. I mean, the issue of Trump being accosted during one of his events and someone in the audience saying that Obama's a Muslim, and the reporters that went and asked Ted Cruz and Rick Santorum whether they thought that Obama was a Muslim. These are all traps. There's no answer there. That they either say of course not, and it's just a silly question, or they answer in a way that really annoys the press. When it comes to Ben Carson, it's really unfortunate that he said that. I think that we also need to understand what he's saying. He's not saying that Muslims should not be allowed to hold office. He's not saying that Muslims should not be allowed to be president. I think what he's saying is that he trusts in the American people to make their own decisions about the people that they're electing. And he's bringing to light the question of, is it a valid discussion to discuss someone's beliefs and values when they're running for president?
And something about Republicans that's different than the Democrats is that when one Republican says something, the rest of them have to answer for it. If a Democrat says something crazy, no, it's just that one person that's being asked the questions, but you don't get the rest of the candidates or the rest of the leadership ask the same question. And in my opinion, it's because of media bias. And most people are like, oh, there's no media bias. It's very evident when one person in the Republican Party says something, and that is the topic for the week or the month. And I think that's just something that's wrong.
There's no reason to ask Ted Cruz, is Obama a Muslim? It's a silly question. but they do it because it gets them viewers. They want a fist fight.
Got it. We're almost finished. A few more questions. Mike Huckabee and John Kasich, two well-known governors of Arkansas and Ohio. They're pretty quiet vocally, and they've stayed in their rankings politically in the campaign for a while. Why is that? And especially with Mike Huckabee, with the Kim Davis issue. What's up with them? That's basically what I'm asking.
Well, with Mike Huckabee and Kim Davis, I think that one of the things that people need to recognize is that Mike Huckabee is in the race for a very specific purpose, to represent a conservative Christian group that forms part of, but not the entirety of the Republican base. I would argue that 99% of Republicans believe that Kim Davis broke the law. She was not upholding the law that she swore she was going to uphold. The issue for a lot of conservatives, though, is why this focus on this relatively minor minor government official, when, for example, the city of San Francisco breaks the law every single day by refusing to enforce immigration laws.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about John Kasich, and what's different about him is that, yeah, he is soft-spoken, but he's mainly focusing his campaign in New Hampshire. And if he doesn't win in New Hampshire, he's done. And the same staff that worked for Governor Huntsman in 2012 is the campaign staff that works for him. And so he's trying to be the candidate that wins New Hampshire and then from there moves on. But right now, I think he's really soft-spoken. But if he wins New Hampshire, then he's somebody that we should definitely look at.
Got it. Now, Senator Rand Paul, we're almost finished.
Mm-hmm.
Do people still take him serious? And we know he just won the straw poll in Michigan. Is he still someone we can consider as a?
Did people really take his father seriously out there? I mean, hey, look, I love Ron Paul and I love Rand Paul. I think that they're both incredible public servants. But the fact is that I don't think that the libertarian movement in the United States has a large enough grasp on the electorate as a whole. It has a very large grasp on young people. Mm-hmm. And I think that Rand Paul is getting his name out there, and he has a long career to go. And
I don't think he's generating the same amount of excitement that his father did. His father was more, even though they're both old, and it's a comparison, to Bernie Sanders, he got a lot of young people excited. He wanted to break up the system. And Rand is a hybrid between a Republican and a libertarian, and many of his father's supporters are strictly libertarian. And so that's why Rand Paul is not garnering the same amount of enthusiasm as his father did.
Got it. Well, once again, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Your insight was very needed for me, and I hope it's beneficial for our watchers out there. So thank you again for joining us.
Anytime.
You have Matt and David with us. So, Cougars, let's get interactive. We want to hear what you feel about the presidential campaign, which will be a part of our daily lives for the next 13 and a half months. So first, follow us on Twitter, @UH News, which is ATUH News, and join the conversation by using the hashtag CoogConnect, COOG Connect, and let us hear your opinion on issues that matter to you. Once again, I'm Matthew Stell. Thank you for watching @UH News.